So these sixes and sevens kind of get this idea that they are nines and tens because they're hooking up with guys who are nines and tens. They spent all this time on a dating app just given the illusion that they were a nine or a 10.
Hey internets, so today I'd like to cover the topic of dating and the dreaded apps, which is a topic I don't usually cover, but this is kind of important because there's a ton of bad advice and disinfo out there, which sets a lot of young people up for failure on something that doesn't actually need to be as complicated as people make it out to be. The thing is, dating is really just a numbers game at the end of the day, just playing the statistics. For men, there are many girls out there, and out of those girls, there will be X number of them who consider you attractive. So to stop yourself from getting friend-zoned as a man, as soon as you decide that you are interested in a girl, you need to find out if she is into you or not. And if she isn't, you filter her out. You take the rejection like a man and move on. You do not want to waste your time and romantic energy on a girl who's not going to reciprocate those feelings. And then with the ladies, it's really only slightly different. It's still a numbers game. For women, there are many guys out there, and out of those guys, there will be X number of men who are interested in you enough that they will give you commitment. So to stop yourself from getting F-zoned as a woman, as soon as you decide that you're interested in a guy, you need to find out if he is a man who will commit to you or not, or if he is just a guy that's trying to get into your pants. And if he is doing that, you filter him out. Do not let a man sleep with you under the misguided hope that he will later change his mind about commitment, because 99 times out of 100, that's just not going to happen. Now, there are generally two ways to improve your odds in the dating numbers game. The first of these is to stay in your league. You gotta look for people who give you equivalent energy. For example, if you're a lady and you're a mid, you're gonna have a much easier time getting commitment from a man who is also a mid. Or on the flip side, if you're a dude and you're a mid, you should, at least in theory, when things are going well in society, have a lower chance of striking out if you go for a woman who is also a mid. And then the other way of improving your chances in the number game is to just focus on self-improvement. Focus on your health, focus on your physical fitness, figure out what you're doing wrong that the opposite sex doesn't like, etc, etc. Basically, be the best version of yourself that you can be. Or to put things really simply, if you're a 5 and the person you want is a 9, and that person is just not into you, you either have to become a 9 yourself or swallow your pride. And in many cases, actually doing both of these things is often the smartest move. You want to be constantly focusing on self-improvement as well as moving on from people who are not into you, and instead going for people who, again, give you equal energy. And yet, despite dating being relatively simple on its surface, people these days still have tons and tons of problems. Although while I'm currently in a pretty good relationship, that has definitely not always been the case for my life. And people who've been paying attention have also noticed that these problems with the current dating marketplace are relatively recent. Often people in the United States especially, or sometimes just the West in general, will look back at, say, 1950s or the 1960s and will notice how things seem to have been a lot better back then. Things were a lot more straightforward back then, and most specifically, people were a lot more honest with each other back then. And so then we'll look at things in the modern day clown world to blame for why things got so messed up. We'll look back at then and we'll look to now and we'll ask ourselves the question, okay, what exactly went wrong here? And one of the things I see people blaming a little bit too much is that people place way too much blame on dating apps. Now, I'm not saying that dating apps don't suck. They mostly do, and they definitely do have a lot of problems. But the truth is, the dating marketplace in the West, at least, was already starting to suck quite a bit as early as the 1970s, long before dating apps were even a thing. And the internet before that was very rudimentary. All one has to do is just look at things like rising divorce rates and see that this problem started quite a long time ago, quite well before dating apps. So what's actually going on? And the answer to that is that the apps have simply exacerbated a problem that was already there. That problem is that we in Western society don't want to freaking live in reality anymore. We like to live in fairy tale delusions. And when you look around you, especially in the mainstream media of clown world, we see a lot of this feel-goodism. We see a lot of this feels over reals. We see a lot of this equality, equity, and just other forms of basic reality denial. One big one that stands out is this propaganda which targets mostly women with the idea that objective beauty standards are somehow oppressive, that all women are 10s and are all unique shining snowflake princesses or whatever, and that anything that tells you otherwise is part of some mean-spirited patriarchal conspiracy or is somehow hateful, and it's designed to keep ladies down, basically. And the problem is, it's not hateful. That's actually quite the opposite. It's designed to help them. But because of all the propaganda, a lot of women just completely fail to realize it. And because, again, it's not hateful, it's actually helpful, by denying it, they're actually setting themselves up for failure. They're going to have very serious consequences that will completely sabotage your ability to find love. Because if you are a mid, but you don't know that you're a mid, then what will happen to you is that both methods of improving your chances in the dating numbers game suddenly become completely unfeasible. How can you tell if your target is in your league if you deny that leagues exist? Well, you can't. And thus you have women constantly trying to get commitment from men that they have no chance of gaining commitment from. And of course, there's no need for self-improvement either, because hey, you're already a 10. You're perfect exactly as you are. You go, girl. The result of this is lots of ladies end up getting used and discarded by men who were never interested in a stable, committed relationship in the first place. And this again is self-sabotage. By believing that these objective mate standards do not exist, what's actually happening is that they have thrown away the best measure that they have for figuring out if a man will commit to her or not. And men are not exempt from this problem either, by the way. I'm only focusing on women a bit in this video more because the Redheaded Libertarian was doing a take on why specifically so many women over 30 have relationship troubles and don't get married. But there are plenty of dudes out there who also have bought into the culture of feel-goodism and think that one day his perfect 10 out of 10 anime waifu will fall for him and he shouldn't have to do anything to earn it. It's not true, of course. He does have to do something to earn it, but people like to live in this dream world where things are handed to them for free, where they are allowed to have standards for their dream partner, but their dream partner shouldn't have any standards for them. And it just doesn't work. It's an extremely damaging mindset that accomplishes nothing except making people feel good about themselves in the short term at the expense of massively increasing their chance of failure in the long term. And so the answer is that it's not so much the dating apps that are at fault. The problem is that too many people aren't living in reality anymore. The dating apps only make things worse by allowing people to live out their delusions, but they are not the direct cause of those delusions, with the true cause being a cultural decay that has been going on for long before these apps came into existence. Anyways, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, subscribe, or give me a tip on Ko-Fi or whatever, or just leave a comment for the algorithm. Till next time.